Hello, Bobcats. It's Mrs. Wallheit, 5th grade math. We're still in Chapter 6. We are now looking at Lesson 13. We're still in division with decimals. It is a 5th grade standard. It's something you have to know in 5th grade. I'm hoping at the end of the lesson you will divide a decimal by another decimal. So we're going to have a decimal in the divisor and the dividend today. Why? What's the main idea? Why are we learning this? Well, it's something you have to know in 5th grade, but also when we deal with decimals, a lot of times it has to do with money. Okay, and as you get older, you're going to want to be able to divide decimals correctly. So I'm hoping today that you will feel more confident with dividing a decimal by another decimal. All right, what do you already know about dividing? We've been spending a lot of time on division in 5th grade, especially in Chapter 4. But when we look at 276 and we divide by 12, we already know the steps of division. We know dad, mom, sister, brother, or divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Let's go ahead and review. First, we divide. 12 divides into 27 2 times. Now I can multiply. 12 times 2 is 24. We can subtract 24. 3's left. Bring down the 6. So how many times will 12 divide into 36? Well, I know 12 times 3 is 36. What's after multiply? Subtract. There's nothing left to bring down. So what I already know about dividing, or from my experience, I know the steps of division, and that's going to help you today. Divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. What are the steps today? Well, 1, we're going to move the decimal in the divisor. Okay, step 2, we're going to move the decimal in the dividend. Okay, step 3, we'll place the decimal in our quotient, the answer. Step 4 is those division steps that we already know, right? Dad, mom, sister, brother. And finally, is it reasonable? We'll look at our answer and see, does it make sense? So we're going to move it on the divisor. We're going to move it on the dividend. We're going to put it in our answer, our quotient. We're going to go ahead and do all those steps of division. And then finally, does it make sense? All right, let's go ahead and try a problem in independent practice. We're looking at problem number 2. It says divide. Check and see if your answer is correct using multiplication. Well, let me set up the division problem. 3/10 is my divisor. That's how many groups. The dividend is 66 hundredths. I'm going to think back to those steps we just talked about. 1, we're going to move the decimal in our divisor. We want to move that decimal right next to that line. And so I'm going to move it around just 1 digit. So I need to move it in the dividend around 1 digit. So I'm going to make sure I just go around this 6 and change that decimal in the dividend so that it's moved 1 digit. Step 3, bring your decimal into your quotient. Notice that my decimal went straight up. Okay, put it right directly above where it is. Step 4, this is when we bring back those steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Well, I know that 3 can divide into 6 2 times. 3 times 6, 3 times 2 is 6. I can go ahead and subtract. Okay, bring down that final digit, the 6. Go back to divide. How many times will 3 divide into 6? Well, we just said it'll go twice. What is 3 times 2? Because I can subtract it. It's 6. And there's nothing left to bring down. So the answer is 22 tenths, or 2 as a whole number, and 2 tenths. 2 and 2 tenths. Check your answer using multiplication. Well, I can multiply my answer, 22 tenths, or 2 and 2 tenths, times that divisor. Okay, notice I moved the decimal over next to the house, or next to that line. So I can erase it here and actually put it there if that's helpful. If you want to erase the 0, you can, because remember 0 has no value. I should get the dividend. When I multiply this, I should get this dividend to have the correct answer. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. We already have learned to count those digits, and there's one digit after the decimal. So I'm going to go one place in, and that puts it right there. So we have 6 and 6/10. And if you look, I got the right answer. All right, moving on. I'm going to go ahead and try number 4. I'm going to start with step 1. Move the decimal in my divisor. So I need to make sure I move that decimal right next to that division house. And I can go ahead and erase the old decimal. I can erase the 0. I don't need it. Step 2. Move the decimal in the dividend. Because I went around one digit in the outside divisor, I'm going to do the same thing inside. I'm going to move that decimal one place value to the right. Step 3, bring it into your quotient. Just bring it straight up so it's perfectly lined up. Now step 4 is where we bring back those division steps. 2 divides into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. I can go ahead and subtract. Bring down that 6. Now I'm going to go back to divide. How many times will 2 divide into 6? 3 times. Notice I put the 3 above the 6. What is 3 times 2? Because I can subtract it. Well, I know that's 6. There's nothing left. Finally, bring down that last digit, which is a 2. Go back to divide. How many times will 2 divide into 2? 1 time. What is 2 times 2? So we can subtract it. 2 times 1, excuse me. Well, I know that 2 times 1 is 2. So I can subtract 2. There's nothing left to bring down, nothing left over. I think I have the answer. I'm going to go ahead and write it in. I think the answer is 2 and 31/100ths. I can check my answer through multiplication. I'm going to take my answer, 2 and 31/100ths, and I'm going to multiply by the divisor, which is 2. 2 times 1, 2 times 3, and 2 times 2. I got to place that decimal in my answer. Well, there's 2 digits after the decimal. So I'm going to bring my decimal 2 places in. And I have the right answer. I got the dividend. So the correct answer is 2 and 31/100ths. Let's go ahead and actually put it on the line now that we're for sure, because we checked it. And we can go ahead and move on now that we know we have the right answer. All right, independent practice still. Number 5, we're still dividing, checking with multiplication. Step 1, we'll move the decimal in the divisor. I need to move 2 places. 1, 2. So it's now going to say 12. I got to move the decimal 2 places in the dividend. Oh, I better add a 0 so that I can move it 2 places. So it's going to go around the 6, 1, and 2. Okay, step 3, bring your decimal into your quotient. I'm just going to bring it straight up. Now I can go ahead and do those steps of division. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. 12 divides into 18 1 time. 12 times 1 is 12. I can subtract it. Now I can bring down the 6. I'm going back to divide. How many times will 12 divide into 66? 6 times. I'm putting it above the 6. What is 12 times 6? Oh, it's not 6. I was thinking it's 11. Come on, Mrs. Woolhite. How many times will 12 divide into 66? Well, that's 5 times. So let's go ahead and put a 5. Now let's multiply. What is 12 times 5? Well, that's 60. That makes more sense. I can go ahead and subtract. There's 6 left over. Next, we're going to bring down the 0. How many times will 12 divide into 60? Well, we just found out that's 5, right? What is 12 times 5? 60. I can go ahead and subtract 60. There's nothing left to bring down, so I think I have the answer. I think the answer is 155 as a whole number. Let's see if it's correct. If I take 155 and I multiply that by 12, hopefully I will get the dividend. 5 times 2 is 10. Bring up the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 1 is 11. 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3. Add a 0 and continue to multiply. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's find the sum of these two partial products. And if you notice, it does equal the dividend. I know that 155 is correct. I can move on. All right, let's go ahead and try number 6. We're going to go ahead and set it up down below. We already know step 1 is move the decimal in the divisor. Well, it has to move 1 digit to be here. So I can erase it and this. I'm going to move it 1 place value inside the dividend to match. It has to match. Step 3, bring your decimal into your quotient, just straight up. Now we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. 14 will not divide into 0. Well, anything times 0 is 0. I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Bring down the 7. How many times will 14 divide into 7? It cannot. I can't make a group of 14. I only have 7. What is 14 times 0? Well, anything times 0 is 0. 7 is left over. What do I bring down? Well, you already know I don't have remainders. I bring down a 0. Even though it's not written here, nothing has the value of 0. So I'm going to bring down a 0. So I now have 70. I can go back to divide. How many times will 14 divide into 70? Well, I'm going to try 5. Now I can multiply. Let's figure out what is 14 times 5. Oh, it is 70. It actually worked out perfect. And what's after multiply? Subtract. 70 subtract 70. Well, there's nothing left over and nothing to bring down. So I think I have the answer. I think the answer is 5/100. I'm going to make sure to have that in the right spot. Of course, I have to check my answer. I'm going to check my answer to see if it is 5/100. How do I check my answer? Well, I multiply. I can do 5/100 times 14 to see if I got the right answer. Well, I know 5 times 4 is 20. 4 times 0 is 0 plus the 2. Add my 0 and continue to multiply. 1 times 5 and 1 times 0. Let me go ahead and add it up. Well, I know that I have the right answer because I got 70. But remember, moving that decimal 2 digits will make it match my dividend, right? It's got to be 70/100. That has to match, and it does. So I know that I am correct. All right, we're going to try number 8. We're going to move the decimal in the divisor. Move the decimal in the dividend, right? 1 place value on both. I can erase the old one. I no longer need it. That 0 can go too. If that 0 bothers you, you don't have to have it. Step 3, bring your decimal into your quotient. Now we can start the steps of division. Once you take care of that decimal, you're ready to go. 4 divides into 14. I'm going to put it right above the 4. 3 times. What is 4 times 3? Well, that's 12. Let's subtract it. Bring down the 4. How many times will 4 divide into 24? Well, I know that 4 times 6 is 24, so I can subtract 24. And there's nothing to bring down, nothing left over. Let's see if 36 is the correct answer. 36 times 4 should give me the dividend. If I don't get the dividend, I know I got the wrong answer. 24, bring up the 2. Oh, look, I did get 144 as a whole number. I can move on. I got it right. Problem solving. Mrs. Chibas is making chocolate chip cookies for her daughter's class. Yummy. She bought a tub of chocolate chip cookie dough that contained 57 and 6 ounces of dough. If each cookie needs 1 2/10 ounces of dough, how many cookies can she make? Well, let's go ahead and set it up to divide. Move the decimal in the divisor one place. Move it in the dividend one place. You can go ahead and erase the old one. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to go ahead and bring my decimal into my quotient, right? Step 3. Step 4 are those steps of division that we know how to do. How many times will 12 divide into 57? 4 times. What is 12 times 4? Well, that's 48. I can go ahead and subtract. I have to borrow. 17 minus 8 is 9. So I can bring down the 6. Now I'm going to go back and divide. How many times will 12 divide into 96? Well, I know that 12 times, let me write it over here, 12 times 8, I think will work. Let's put an 8 on top and multiply. What is 12 times 8? Well, that's 96. It's actually perfect. So I can go ahead and subtract. 96 minus 96, there's nothing left. It's a 0. There's nothing to bring down. So let's go back to the original question. How many cookies can she make? Well, 48 times 12, oops, my pen, let's try it again, 12 times 48, you can write it either way, right, commutative property. We should get 576. If we don't get that, then we know we got the wrong answer. Well, 8 times 2 is 16. 96. I'm going to add my 0 and continue to multiply. What is 4 times 2? Well, that's 8. 4 times 1? Let's go ahead and find the sum of our partial products. And we got 576. So we know that she can make 48 cookies with the cookie dough she has. All right, Bobcats, what did you learn today? Well, we divided a decimal by another decimal. In summary, today I learned that if you move that decimal in the divisor, you also move it in the dividend the same number of times. So if you move it to the right 2 places, then you move that dividend 2 places. Make it 100 times smaller. If you move it 1 place value on the divisor, you also move it 1 place value in the dividend. Remember to bring that decimal into your quotient and then solve. Thank you so much for your attention. Have a great day.